Welcome back to our program, Hollywood Structure. As some of you already know, our program is designed to help the young people who wish to enter the entertainment field, may it be nightclub work, film, theater, or television. It is also designed to help the parents and the educators of those young people, to help them understand their wants, their needs, and the traps and the pitfall they may fall into unless thoroughly acquainted with the inner workings of Hollywood. If any of you have any questions, please address your mail to Liliane Chauvin, care of LCJ Production, Box 5542, Mission Hill, California, 91395. Today, as our special guest, we have someone yet from another branch of the industry, someone who started out wanting to be an opera singer and studied for it too. However, ended up becoming a very well-known makeup artist for such stars as Jackie Bissett, Chris Christopherson, Shirley MacLaine, James Coburn, Madonna, Robert Stack, Joan Collins, Patty Duke, Louis Fletcher, Genevieve Bujold, Leslie Ann Warren, Mickey Rourke, Angie Dickinson, Donna Mills, and many, many others. He is really someone that you would want to have in your corner once you start acting. His name is Edward Thurnes. Hello, Edward.
Hi, Liliane. How are you?
Fine. Before Edward shares his expertise and his experiences with us, I would like to talk to you today about technical terms that you may find on a script. And since many of you, now that our program is being seen outside of Los Angeles area in high school and in colleges, since many of you are studying theater, you may not know those terms. So you might want to grab a pencil or a pen and notebook or a piece of paper and jot those terms down. Those terms are very well known in the industry, but you may not know them. They're all capital letters on a script. One would be ELS, which means extreme long shot, when you see the Indians on a hill and they look like they are ants. You cannot distinguish them. LS would be a long shot, which would be from head to toe, with some background so you can identify where the people are. MS would be from the waist up. CU would be from the neck up. ECU would be extreme close-up, the eyes, the mouth, part of a hand, part of a letter. Sometimes your director will say to you, get into a 50-50. 50-50 would be if I am looking at Edward and camera number one is taking us, you see 50% of his face and 50% of my face. That's called a 50-50. You have then two letters, V/O, which means voiceover. It's a voice that will be heard but will never be seen. You have O/S, which means off screen, which is a voice that you will hear and a person that you will see later on. Camera right and camera left. When the director says to you, please exit camera right, you go to your left. If the director says exit camera left, you go to your right. Now, on the floor, you will have marks, which means if you don't get into those little tapes that they put on the floor, which are either like an N or a cross, or two little lines on the tip of your toes, you will be off your key light. There's a key light just for me. There's a key light just for Edward. If I were to step out 1 foot out of my key light and or my mark, I would be totally in the dark. So remember those two terms. There is also something else called looping and dubbing. They're fairly similar. However, looping would be what I just did this week, which was to put my own voice back on my own body because the sound was defective in the show that I just shot. Dubbing would be a foreign film coming here, putting my voice on somebody else's body. Also, dubbing would be adding all the sounds, the sound effect. Slamming of a door, a kick, a punch, birds chirping, a dog barking, a door slamming, etc. Now, before you would be shooting a scene, you would hear 5 turns. The first one would be quiet on the set. The second one would be roll them. Third, rolling. Fourth, ready. Fifth, finally, would be action. Remember that since the last word of the scene is not necessarily the last moment in the script, do not cut the scene after your last word of the scene. Remain in character until the director says cut. And Edward was reminding me earlier that it is also a good idea for about 10 or 20 seconds after the director says cut to still remain in character because the camera is still rolling. Also remember one thing, only the director can say cut, not you, not anybody else on the set. One more thing. Unlike the theater, where if somebody forgets their line, you are supposed to ad-lib and cover up for the other actor, in film you don't do that. In film, the director probably would cut the scene. If you were to try to cover up, the director would still cut the scene, and the other actor, in order to protect himself, maybe, would say, "Why did you jump in? I knew my dialogue. I was just taking a moment." Well, the end result of that is that you would look bad. You would look as if you're responsible for the director cutting the scene and wasting valuable times. So don't ad-lib on a movie set. You don't want to look bad. Now, let's talk to someone who will always make you look good. Well, until the character requires that you don't have to look good. Edward, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
First of all, are you from California?
No, I was born in Minnesota, in Duluth, Minnesota. I finished school, I was very young. I was 13 and a half, and I wasn't able to get into university. So...
Lack of money?
Oh, no, I was too young.
Oh, I see.
I was a misfit.
I see.
Everybody was 19 or 18, and I was 13 and a half, so I wasn't allowed to get in. I also was given a scholarship to study voice, classical music, and I had a sister who was a professional musician, and there was a conflict of interest, I felt, so needless to say, I went on another road.
But you wanted really to be...
I really did want to be a classical singer. I wanted to be an opera singer.
What prompted you in that? Your family was... there was anybody
I
like
came
this?
from a musical background, musical family, talented family, creatively talented. And I think some of it was inherent, you know. And I guess had my sister and I not been such good friends, and I wasn't afraid of... I guess I was afraid of maybe not living up to the standards that she had and her accomplishments, maybe falling short of them, or maybe on the other hand also frightened that what if I was better? And my sister was my best friend, so.
I see. Did she continue singing? Okay.
No, she plays the piano, and she's an accomplished musician, but she also gave up her career when she got married, and now she helps a lot of young people try to get their musical talent together.
Now, your father wanted you to be a singer?
No, my father wanted me to be in the automobile business. My father was in the automobile business. And I guess I probably should have become an engineer, which seemed like doom. So needless to say, my father and I didn't see eye to eye on that very much. And also I was sensitive and creative. And the people that I met that were in that field were far from sensitive or creative.
So how did you get into
I
makeup?
I actually started studying hair on a $50 bet by a friend of the family. And I was a person who hated losing anything, and especially $50. So I went
And that was
to...
about 25 years ago,
yes,
right?
yes.
It
So
was a lot of
that was a
money.
lot of money then. So I went and I took the person's advice and looked around to find the best people I could. I also thought it was a way to waste a little bit of time in the beginning, to tell you the truth, because I really didn't really know at that stage of the game what I really wanted to do with my life, since everything else was sort of amuck already. So I found a woman by the name of Luella Bailey, who was really responsible for the Breck success for years and years and years. And she took about 6 people a year, and she trained them. And her husband was part of the team, Luella and Porter Bailey. And I started studying hair and had talent in hair, and she said I also had talent in art, in all artistic fields, and suggested I also pursue makeup, which I did. And I was afraid to really tell anyone that I really enjoyed doing what I was doing, but I did. I really enjoyed it. And she also made sure that you didn't waste time, that whatever it is, if you liked it and you had talent, that you pursued it to the best of your ability.
So where did you start, actually? When did you get your first break?
Well, I finished school, and I had a lot of talent, so I left, and I went east.
East, meaning
in
New
New York, and started had immediate success and immediate breaks. It's like I walked in the door, and I was embraced by wonderful people who, I don't know if it was because I was young, I don't know really truly what the success was brought about by, other than I did have some talent, and at that time really was afraid to really acknowledge it within myself or outwardly, yet I knew instinctively that I did have talent. And I started doing print work, magazines.
For magazines?
Magazines, billboards, that sort of thing. And I had tremendous success. And gradually, people were sending celebrities to me for makeovers. And I started...
Now, this was in the theater also, at the time.
Theater, and most of the people that were being sent to me were people who were movie stars.
Oh,
I didn't
really?
really know who they were at the time. I mean, I was really a young kid, and I loved the cinema, but I was always very busy, so I never really had a lot of time to go to the cinema. So a lot of the people who were being sent to me, I really didn't know. I didn't even know who they were. But gradually, more and more were being sent to me for makeovers. And I started building a clientele of celebrities.
How did you come to Hollywood?
Well, I was working with the political system at just before my arrival in Hollywood, and I was brought to Hollywood because they couldn't handle an actor, a particular actor who had a severe alcohol problem. And it's someone I had worked with in the East. And when I worked with him in the East, I was able to keep him so he wasn't drunk. So they said, get that man and bring him out. And Columbia Pictures really was responsible for getting me into the industry. And it really was to keep this man sober.
Now, may I ask you, because even I don't know that, are makeup artists under contract to a studio? Are they under contract to a star? Are they freelance?
Originally, what you would do is all studios had their own makeup department, and basically you would be hired and you would be under contract to the studio. However, in my situation, really never ended up like that from the beginning. It should have ended up like that, but again, I guess that word luck, and maybe being nice and being honest.
May I say one thing, however? I think you were prepared. You did study.
I did study, and I studied hard.
Okay.
I studied hard.
So,
I did my homework.
Because luck is an iffy word with me.
What I did was I learned to keep my eyes open and my ears. And whenever I was around anyone who was doing anything in the business, and it didn't matter if it was the photographer, it didn't matter if it was the cinematographer, it didn't matter if it was a man who was setting the lights, the sound man, the wardrobe department, I kept my eyes open. I tried to learn as much as I could. And I guess somehow I wasn't aware of it. I felt I was probably not sure if I still wanted to branch out into other areas.
Mhm.
But I felt if I knew everything about all the areas, or as much as I could possibly learn from eyewitness,
Mm.
I would never not be prepared. And if someone, say, had a heart attack and they needed to set a light, at least I knew where the light should be set.
Do you know light also?
Yes, it was very important. I work with a lot of women, as you said, a lot of stars, and it's very important that if they walk into a scene and they walk in and the light is too high or too low, and it's causing this or it's causing this, or lights can cause a lot of people to look very bad, and lights can cause a lot of people to look very good. And the makeup man's job is to make sure that the light's in the direction or at the angle or the position that it should be for each face. So the angle of their face, as well as the camera lens, is where it needs to be. Consequently, you don't always become the friendliest person on the set the first week of a shoot. However, I think as time goes on, the cinematographer and the lighting director, eventually you find them coming to you and saying, thanks for the help, or if there's anything you can do to expedite our job so we look good, just tell us, we'll do whatever we can. And in some interesting way, you want to help people. You want people to look good, and you want the cinematographer and the lighting director to look as good as they can too. And many times, they don't know that particular face, and they don't know if the light should be backed off or brought in closer or brought up or down, or if a low angle is really bad for someone or a high angle is bad for them. My feeling from being in the business is that the thing that tells you what it is you have is here, in the eyes. And if you don't see the eyes, it seems pointless to be shooting anything because you're not getting the truth from someone. And a script has to be the truth. If you're the actor, you have to be saying the truth. So if you're saying the truth and you don't have that on the camera, if it's supposed to be there, of course, sometimes in a long shot it can't be there. But for important things, the eyes have to be there.
I want to ask you a question just for the young people out there. Are makeup artists well paid?
Makeup artists are very well paid. It's a
But
very good living.
But you have a dry spell, though.
Yes. The thing is that it's always good to have more than one craft. Know something else. Because if there's a long strike, or, God forbid, all your actors should die that you do, or if you find that sometimes you just need a break to get away. Sometimes you need air too.
Have something to fall back on.
A real makeup artist, as in my particular case, I travel with a lot of single stars. I follow them, I do their hair, I do their face. I'm conscious of their wardrobe. The hem is too short, too high. The pants should be longer, the tie isn't right, should be loose, not tight. I mean, there's a lot of opinion that you're asked for. And honesty is very important between the people you work with. And it's a fair exchange. They're also honest to you.
I want to touch on a subject. Discretion on the set. If you travel with those people, you must know almost everything about them, right? So when you said earlier, keep your ears and your eyes open, but keep your mouth.
Absolutely. Keep your mouth shut. I mean, the thing is that loyalty and honesty are they're hand in hand. They go together, and if they are your family. The person that you spend this time with, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months at a time, sometimes more than that. Sometimes you'll do 4 or 5 films in a row, which could take 1.5 years or 2 years. You spend all this time. I mean, everyone needs someone to speak to. And you need someone to speak to that you know is not going to, again, in turn, say the same things that you've said in honesty to them. You don't want them to violate you, so you wouldn't want to violate them. The biggest problem in the industry is someone who runs their mouth. It's dangerous. It's not just dangerous in this business, it's dangerous in every business. What you hear, keep to yourself. And if you can't, then don't hear it.
Edward, you told me the other night that you had at one time a problem with drugs. Not a long one.
I wouldn't say a real problem with drugs. Early in my career, I was asked to go to the head of the studio's office, and the assistant to this head introduced me to a drug called cocaine. I didn't know what cocaine was. I mean, I knew people did it, but I hadn't ever done it. Again, I guess being on my own so young, first of all, when I was young, I didn't particularly need it. I was happy with life. I was having a great time, and I was exploring everything, and I always never felt that drugs did anything to help one. But I went into this office, and the assistant said, "Oh, here, you got to, here, this is really great." And I did it twice. And then I had to go in for a meeting, and I was panicked because my throat had gone dry. And I left the studio, upset, frightened, and I drove myself to a hospital and went into the emergency room and said to the first person I ran into, "I've just done cocaine and I can't swallow and my throat's dry," and I was panicking, and I was young. And
Did you find that it impaired you?
I knew it impaired me. And to this day, whenever I particularly see this person's name or see this person, it's someone who I loathe. It was my fault I did it. I could have said no, but I felt I had to be part of the group. I realized being part of the group is detrimental in most cases. And in that particular case, it certainly was.
I think you said the other day that it's more detrimental than verbal abuse. For the young people
It
who
is more
get
detrimental than
involved
verbal
into the
abuse,
drug.
because the thing with verbal abuse is at least you can get away from your home, or you can get away from your friends, or you can get away from the people who are doing it to you. But with drugs, I have to tell you, it's a noose around your neck.
You also touch on something that is very important. You say making the right friends along the way, not the wrong one.
It is. It's important. It's important to know, first of all, to know yourself. And it takes a long time to know oneself if we ever really do know ourselves. But I know that within myself, my grandmother used to say, listen to what's being said to you inside. And if you listen to that, rarely will you ever steer yourself wrong. I believe those words are really true. However, I think that what you have to do is, when you meet people, impulse is you want to be nice and you want to be accepted. The thing is that the people who you really can trust and want to be your friends, you don't have to really feel like that, because they make you feel at ease with yourself immediately, because they are at ease with themselves. And also to make sure that you don't become part of a group. I think when you become part of a group, you know, a hanger-on, part of an entourage, I think it's very dangerous, because I think what you do is you end up living in someone else's shadow, and consequently you don't live your own life, and you're shortchanged.
I wanted to ask you something. What do you consider good street makeup?
I think it's important that, for women, that their eyes be done. I think less is more. I think your eyes and your mouth say a lot. I think people wear oftentimes much too much makeup, and I think what they're doing is they're hiding. But I think if your eyes are made up, so your eyes look bright, I think you feel bright. I oftentimes think people, after they wash their face at night, feel better than they have all day when they have too much on their face.
You're talking against your profession.
No, I remember the first day I ever met Jacqueline Bisset. It was at someone's home, and she walked in, and I said to her, I said, "Why do you let anyone put makeup on your face?" I said, "You look so much better this way than you do on camera. I mean, why would you?" And I mean, it came out so quick, I didn't realize it came out. I wasn't looking for a job, because that would be like saying, I don't need to work.
What would you recommend to the young people out there who wish to become makeup artists? What should they do?
I don't think it's just being a makeup artist or being a hairdresser or being a wardrobe person or whatever. I think the first thing is to do your homework and research out as much information as you can in whatever area it is that you find yourself attracted to. If it's the industry, pursue every area of information on that industry, not just one. If you're creative, I mean, there's so many creative areas of the industry, being a writer, a costume designer, makeup, hair, set dresser, set designer. Do your homework. Look into all the areas. Also, oftentimes keep your ears open, because oftentimes if you're not really sure what it is you want to be, oftentimes a person who is further away from you will recognize your talent in whatever area and may give you advice. Why don't you pursue? Have you thought about? Have you looked into? I mean, keep your ears open. Always be open to a suggestion.
Edward, we have 2 minutes to wrap up. Do you have anything to say to either the young people or to the parents or to the educators?
Yeah, I do. I believe that if a young person has a dream, don't let your parents alter your dream. Don't try to become something your parents want you to become. If it's really inside of you that you have a longing for another career, pursue that career. Do everything you can. Also, as to the parents, don't impose what you think is right for your child in their career area. Help them make a decision. Help them look for information. I think we're living in an age where we don't have to do what our parents did. Parents, give your children love and give them freedom to find out what it is that they're capable of doing so they can be the best at it. But help them do the research, and young people do the research. It pays off.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to thank Edward for sharing with us. By the way, Edward got up this morning at 5:30 and made 150 sandwiches for the homeless today. So I think you should be congratulated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Remember, keep watching us, because we keep watching out for you. And if you have any questions, address your mail to Liliane Chauvin, care of LCJ Production, P.O. Box 5542, Mission Hill, California, 91395. Thank you. Till next time.
Great. Well, yeah, really great.